Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. Happy New Year. First on the docket, Bryan Kohberger's sister speaks publicly for the first time. U.S. prosecutors of the former Venezuelan leader Nicolás Maduro and his wife have him appear in court today. Former Uvalde school police officer is facing trial for that 2022 shooting. We've got This Day in Legal History, our quote of the day, and our dumb criminal. Let's talk about it.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reisch, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't. Like if you do. Leave me a comment below. And make sure you hit that little bell for notifications of when we go live or put up new content. Let's also remind you that you can check us out on any of your favorite podcasting apps. All right. It is January 5th. We are all back to work, right? The holidays are over. Hopefully your new year is off to a great start, and hopefully you all have a prosperous 2026. I am already busy. So we're going to do a quick show today because I have to head off to some motions hearings in a homicide case. So I'll be doing that the rest of the afternoon. Let me remind you also, go to crimetalksearch.com, sign up for that background subscription service today. It's a new year, new people will be coming into your life. Check them out. When you do, sign up for that background subscription service. You'll be able to do as many searches as you desire on anyone here in the United States. You're going to find out information that you probably didn't know about the person. You're going to find email addresses, social media presence, phone numbers. You're going to find out if there's a criminal history. Are they married? Are they divorced? Everything you want to know about somebody, ladies and gentlemen, things you hadn't even thought to check out. I mean, it'll go into how many cars they have owned. Go to crimetalksearch.com. You're going to be happy that you did. Also, a quick reminder, go check out the merch. All right. For everything that is purchased today, one random purchaser will find a crisp $100 bill in their order. Okay, so everyone that orders today through midnight tonight, we will randomly select from the orders and we will place a crisp $100 bill in that package as a gift to us. So go to the link below, get your Crime Talk merch today. All right, let's go ahead and open the record for January 5th, 2026, ladies and gentlemen. And first on the docket, well, Bryan Kohberger's family, specifically his sister, speaks out publicly for the first time. So in a rare public statement, Melissa Kohberger, the sister of Bryan Kohberger, who pled guilty to the 2022 stabbing death of 4 University of Idaho students, has shared a little insight into her family's perspective following his conviction and sentencing. So Melissa is 34 years old, and she is a mental health professional residing in New Jersey, provided her account in an interview published in the New York Times on January 3rd. Now, this marks the first occasion a member of the Kohberger's immediate family has addressed the case publicly since his arrest back in December of 2022. Now, as you know, Kohberger is serving 4 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole as a result of his July 2025 guilty plea that he took to avoid the death penalty. He admitted responsibility for the murders of Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Zaina Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, and all that occurred back on November 13th of 2022, the murders that is. Now, during his sentencing hearing, Kohberger was observed examining a drawing that appeared to be a dark heart on a photocopied sheet, prompting speculation among observers about its significance. Well, Melissa Kohberger clarified that she created the original artwork, a colorful heart, as a gesture of familial support. Now, she was unable to attend the hearing due to caring for their father, who was experiencing some health issues at that time, and she sent the drawing to convey that the family continued to care for him despite the gravity of his actions. Now, the photocopying process obviously rendered the vibrant colors as a black image. So Melissa Kohberger recounted 2 conversations with her brother about the murders prior to the arrest. Shortly after the crimes became public, she expressed concern for his safety, noting his habits of late night running and leaving doors unlocked. She advised him to exercise caution given the unknown perpetrator at large, to which he responded reassuringly. The second discussion occurred during the 2022 holiday season when Kohberger returned to the family home in Pennsylvania. He casually mentioned that authorities were still searching for the individual responsible for the murders. While the family learned of his involvement abruptly when law enforcement executed the raid on their Pennsylvania residence back in December of 2022. She also described receiving a distressing call from her sister, Amanda, informing her of the arrest, which left her in profound shock. Now, Melissa emphasized that her family's distress, while significant, does not compare to the enduring suffering of the victims' relatives. She acknowledged the profound challenge of reconciling their knowledge of Kohberger from a childhood marked by closeness and later struggles with addiction, followed by recovery and academic pursuits, with the individual convicted of these horrible acts. Now, Kohberger had overcome a heroin addiction during his teenage years and pursued advanced studies in criminology, achieving achievements that had instilled pride in his family. Now, following his arrest, Melissa relinquished a new position in mental health counseling due to the overwhelming public attention. The case obviously drew extensive national attention and remains notable for the absence of a disclosed motive and any prior connection between Kohberger and any of the victims. Now, obviously, investigators identified Kohberger through DNA evidence on a knife sheath recovered at the scene, and then supplemented by vehicular and cell phone data that, put him in the area as well. Now, this interview obviously shows a lot of complex emotional issues for families affected by such crimes. Obviously, there's loyalty, grief, and the stark contrast between the person that they thought they knew and remembered and what really took place. Now, this is not unusual, ladies and gentlemen. When people get charged with crimes, particularly horrific crimes such as Bryan Kohberger was charged and convicted of and ultimately pled guilty to, oftentimes the family members are completely stunned. They had no idea. They could not have imagined it, which is clearly what his sister was saying in that interview, which just goes to show you some people, I've always said it, kind of live double lives sometimes, and you don't know what they're doing. But when she's concerned, she stated, "I have concerns for your safety, Bryan, because I know you go out and you don't lock your doors." And he's like, "Don't worry about it. I'm good." It's almost like I know the guy. Right? And then he casually mentions that they still haven't found the guy right around Christmas. That's really weird, isn't it? And then ultimately, here she is finding out that he was the guy that committed the quadruple murders. Just goes to show you, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, if that's not a great segue into CrimeTalkSearch.com, I don't know what is, ladies and gentlemen. Even your family members, sometimes you just don't know. You got to check people out. Information is knowledge. Next, the prosecution of former Venezuelan leader Nicolás Maduro and his wife, Celia. So today, former Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, made their initial appearance in a federal courtroom in Manhattan, marking a significant escalation in U.S. efforts to address alleged international drug trafficking and the alleged terrorism links as well. The proceedings, presided over by U.S. District Judge Alvin K. Hellerstein, highlighted charges stemming from a long-standing indictment and a recent, obviously, military operation that led to, their detention. Now, Maduro is 66. His wife is 69. They face multiple federal accusations in the Southern District of New York, including conspiracy to commit narco-terrorism, conspiracy to import cocaine, and possession of machine guns and destructive devices with the intent to use against the United States. These allegations span from activities from 1999 through 2025, accusing the pair of collaborating with drug cartel to transport substantial quantities of cocaine into the United States and providing financial support to entities involved in terrorism. Now, if convicted, they could receive life sentences, and obviously the couple's apprehension occurred during a U.S.-led military initiative named Operation Absolute Resolve. President Donald Trump authorized the mission, and special forces extracted Maduro and his wife from a secure residence on a military base in Caracas on January 3rd, following Trump's directive to intervene in Venezuela, which the administration has labeled as an illegitimate regime sustained by fraudulent elections, including those back in 2024. Now, under the Venezuela's constitution, Executive Vice President Delcy Rodriguez has assumed interim leadership, currently detained in separate isolation units at the Brooklyn Metropolitan Detention Center, a facility known for housing high-profile figures such as El Chapo Guzman, don't forget Sean Diddy Combs, as well as Ghislaine Maxwell, as well as, Jeffrey Epstein. Now, Maduro and his wife are under heightened security. I'll be curious if something happens to them in the middle of the night. Anyway, the detention center has drawn attention for its stringent conditions and past notable inmates. Now, during the arraignment today, Maduro entered a not guilty plea, which is very common at an arraignment in a federal court. They usually don't get continued or anything like that. He apparently asserted his innocence and described himself as a decent man and the rightful president of Venezuela. He interrupted the proceedings to claim he had been kidnapped from his home in Caracas, prompting the judge to intervene and confirm his identity. Maduro further declared himself a prisoner of war and a man of God in a heated exchange with a Venezuelan national that was in the courtroom, who identified himself as Pedro Rojas, a former political prisoner under Maduro's regime. And Rojas accused Maduro of illegitimacy and expressed satisfaction at the prospect of real justice. Now, Flores also pled not guilty, stating that she was completely innocent. Her attorney, a guy by the name of Mark Donnelly from Texas, informed the court that she sustained injuries during the capture, potentially including a rib fracture and visible bruising. He requested a comprehensive medical examination, including x-rays, to assess her condition while in custody. Now, Maduro's legal team includes court-appointed attorney David Willstrom, funded by the U.S. taxpayers, along with private counsel Barry Pollock, renowned for negotiating the 2024 release of WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange through a plea agreement. Maduro's representations indicated no immediate pursuit of bail, but reserved the option for future applications or motions to be filed on that. Now, Maduro emphasized his right to retain personal notes taken during the hearing. Additional contacts emerged from the session and related developments. A former U.S. detainee in Venezuela, Marine Corps veteran Matthew Heath, urged interim leader Rodriguez to release the remaining 5 American citizens held in Caracas as a gesture of goodwill towards Washington. Heath was freed in 2022 after alleged torture and fabricated charges, highlighting the lack of judicial independence under the prior regime there in Venezuela. Now, there's been some economic repercussions were evident in financial markets, with energy stocks rising. Chevron's shares increased by almost 5% amid speculation that the U.S. firm could access Venezuela's vast oil reserves under a more cooperative administration. However, oil prices showed minimal fluctuations, reflecting uncertainties in boosting productions. President Trump has signaled intention to maintain economic pressures, including oil sanctions, and hinted at broader regional influence. International reactions vary, with allies like Cuba reporting 32 officers killed in the operation and condemning the U.S. action. The United Nations Security Council convened an emergency meeting at Venezuela's request to discuss the intervention's implications. Opposing figures in Venezuela, such as Edmundo Gonzalez Urita, have called for the release of political prisoners in recognition of the 2024 election results, arguing that U.S. involvement alone is insufficient for meaningful change. And an unrelated anecdote from the transport from New York involved Maduro wearing a blue hoodie from Maine-based apparel company Origin, which sparked a surge in inquiries to the firm. The company's founder speculated humorously that it symbolizes a taste of American freedom, though the garment's origin remains unclear. Anyway, as the proceedings advance, the case underscores obviously a lot of tensions between U.S. and Venezuela, with potential ramifications for regional stability. So let's talk about this. This has lots of information. I read the indictment yesterday, and tomorrow we'll talk about it more on our live show. All right, it's going to be interesting. It's a superseding indictment. The original indictment goes back many years, I believe, under the Biden administration. The Biden administration also, as President Biden left, put a bounty of $25 million on Maduro's head and called him illegitimate, that he basically lost the election. And apparently they all have the receipts and they know that he lost, but he's stuck around because he's a dictator, communist thug. That's what he is. So anyway, the indictment's going to be interesting because they're basically saying narco-terrorism. It's going to be very interesting to see what evidence they actually bring if this matter goes to trial, which he has a right to go to trial within 70 days. Now, would anybody really be prepared to go to trial in 70 days? Probably not. But let's face it, Maduro's not going anywhere anytime soon, ladies and gentlemen, unless there's something brokered where he gets to go off to Russia or wherever, who knows, China. I doubt that's going to happen. We got him. He was indicted. They issued a superseding indictment. We'll go over it tomorrow night on our Tuesday Night Live show. But it's going to be interesting to see what the government can actually prove. So, we'll give him the presumption of innocence like anybody that's charged. So you have to admit, who woke up Saturday morning? I woke up pretty early that day and saw that we had got in and snatched Maduro, which turned out to be from a military base in Caracas, heavily guarded by Cubans. And Delta Force goes in and snatches him. And through electronic warfare, we basically turned the city off, jammed all the defense forces, assuming Maduro's own people didn't sell him out and say, we're not going to fire. It's all good. Knowing the ramifications if they did, which would be that they'd probably be dead. You got to admit, didn't expect it. And what I did see was Marco Rubio said that Delta Force rolled in. There were DEA agents with Delta Force. Maduro's arrested along with his wife, and they read him his Miranda rights to advise him that anything he says can and will be used against him in a court of law. If he couldn't afford an attorney, they'd appoint an attorney for him. Now, it's going to be interesting to see. He's got court-appointed counsel, as does his wife, to see who retains counsel for the Maduros. It's going to be interesting. Well, his family, apparently they have several hundreds of millions of dollars at their disposal, although that may be part of the forfeiture allegation in the indictment, which may be in the process of being seized. But it's going to be interesting to see if private counsel enters at their own expense. It's going to be a cluster, what, ladies and gentlemen. This guy thinks he's still the legitimate president of Venezuela, when in reality, he's a defendant in the United States of America. It's going to be a hoot to watch. Next on the docket, officer faces trial over his response or lack thereof over the Uvalde shooting. So jury selection is scheduled to begin today in the criminal trial of Adrian Gonzalez, a former school district police officer who was among the initial responders to the tragic 2022 mass shooting at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. Gonzalez faces 29 counts of abandoning or endangering a child, stemming from allegations that he did not take sufficient action to protect students and staff during the incident. The shooting, carried out by 18-year-old gunman Salvador Ramos, resulted in the deaths of 19 students and 2 teachers, which marked one of the most devastating school attacks in the United States history. Despite the arrival of nearly 400 law enforcement officers from various agencies, more than 77 minutes elapsed before a tactical team entered the classroom and neutralized the shooter. Gonzalez, along with former Uvalde School Police Chief Pete Arredondo, were among the first officers at the scene. They are the only 2 law enforcement personnel to face criminal charges related to the delayed response. Now, Arredondo's trial date remains unscheduled. If convicted, Gonzalez could face up to 2 years in prison for each count, and the proceedings expected to last up to 3 weeks. And these trials have been relocated down to Corpus Christi, which is about 200 miles from Uvalde, right? Obviously not going to get a fair trial, more than likely, in Uvalde. Now, the indictment accuses Gonzalez of placing children in imminent danger by failing to confront, distract, or delay the shooter despite hearing gunfire and receiving information about the gunman's location. Further alleges that he did not adhere to active shooter training protocols. Gonzalez has entered a not guilty plea, with his defense asserting that he made efforts to assist in evacuating students from other areas of the school and worked to save lives. Initial accounts from law enforcement and the Texas Governor Abbott praised the response as timely and effective, but subsequent revelations, including desperate 911 calls from trapped students and accounts from families using officers to intervene, kind of undermine those claims. And official state and federal investigations highlight significant shortcomings in training, communication, leadership, and equipment, raising questions about the prolonged delay in engaging the shooter. Relatives of the victims have expressed frustration with the limited scope of the prosecutions. Velma Lisa Duran, sister of slain teacher Irma Garcia, stated that numerous officers bore responsibility for the inaction, allowing unnecessary loss of life. Similarly, Jesse Rizzo, uncle of 9-year-old victim Jackie Cazares, emphasized the family's intent to attend the trial daily, noting the importance of demonstrating the victim's strong support networks to the jury. Now, securing a conviction may prove somewhat challenging if juries have historically shown reluctance to hold police officers accountable for decisions made during high-pressure situations. This case draws some parallels to the 2018 Parkland shooting, where a charged deputy was ultimately acquitted. Now, Uvalde, a community of about 15,000 residents, continues to bear some visible reminders of this tragedy. The Robb Elementary remains closed, with a memorial featuring 21 crosses near its entrance. Additional tributes, including murals of victims in the downtown Plaza Memorial, serve as an enduring symbol of the town's grief. Now, the trial represents a rare instance of criminal charges against a law enforcement officer for failing to intervene in active shootings. So this is going to be an interesting one, ladies and gentlemen. Now, normally, listen, my gosh, Columbine took place in, I think, 1999. And obviously here in Colorado, everybody kind of knows somebody that was in that school during the time as a student. It's one of our attorneys. His wife was actually in there. And so, these kind of things come up every time there's kind of a school shooting, and they're horrible. But what they learned at Columbine was that the officers don't need to sit back and wait because people are being slaughtered on the inside. Police officers go in. That's the new training protocol. You go in, find, locate, destroy the shooter. This guy didn't do it. Now, should he be held accountable? I don't know. We're going to have to see the evidence. Was he sitting around, not doing anything? Was he cowering? Or was he truly trying to help evacuate students? That's going to be the biggest issue. I don't think it's going to be a slam dunk. A jury may be sympathetic to the families and the victims, but the jury's really going to have to say, man, this guy's a coward and he should have acted. Now, remember, civilians never have a duty to go in, and police don't have a duty to go get themselves killed, so to speak, if they don't think it's safe. So it's going to be very, very interesting trial indeed. And even if there is a conviction, could there be obviously appellate issues up and later? Possibly, yes. Next on the docket, this day in legal history. On January 5, 1968, a grand jury indicted child psychologist Dr. Benjamin Spock and several others for conspiring to aid draft dodgers. Now, Spock was tried and convicted, but the conviction was later overturned. How about our quote of the day? Now, let's give you a legal quotation praising the efficiency of cross-examination as a mechanism for ascertaining the truth, which we talk about all the time. Now, John Henry Wigmore, the influential American jurist and evidence scholar, in his seminal work, A Treatise on the Anglo-American System of Evidence, Trials and Common Law, section 1637, cross-examination is the greatest legal engine ever invented for the discovery of the truth. End quote. Totally believe this. Why? Because this statement, often cited in judicial opinions and legal scholarship, including the United States Supreme Court in California v. Green in the 1970s, highlights the adversarial testing of testimony as the preeminent method for exposing inconsistencies, biases, and falsehoods in the pursuit of factual accuracy. Think about it, ladies and gentlemen. And this is why I hate watching the evening news or commentary shows. You put somebody up, they say something, and they get to spew whatever they want, and nobody gets to cross-examine them and say, well, isn't it true there's this? And They don't get to answer the question. The beautiful thing about the court system is you have to answer the question. And if your question comes across like you are just a liar, the jury gets to see that. And it goes to your credibility, right? Your biases, inconsistencies in the statements. Was it a complete falsehood or was it just a lapse in memory? That's the beautiful thing about it. Cross-examination, the greatest truth-seeking tool ever created. Think about it, even when you cross-examine your kids, right? Did you break the window? Did you take the cookie from the cookie jar? You cross-examine them. Oh, I didn't take it. Really? Why do you have the cookie crumbs all in your mouth? And even the witness begins to believe and understand why their story makes no sense. There's not enough cross-examination in the world, ladies and gentlemen. The truth comes out through cross-examination. Challenging. That's why we believe in free speech so much. If people just say, this is what we believe and nobody else can question or challenge it, that's ridiculous. That's not seeking the truth. That's seeking just to be right. Next on the docket, our dumb criminal of the day. Take a look at this guy. Charged with felonious voyeurism after being caught filming a mall bathroom. That's right. 33-year-old Joshua Yanowitz has been charged with feloniously voyeurism after being caught filming inside the Great Lakes Mall on New Year's Eve. A father called 911 after catching the man apparently filming his 11-year-old son in the bathroom. When the officers questioned Mr. Yanowitz about the allegations, he admitted, quote, "It may be true. A little bit, yeah." When directly asked what officers might find on his phone, he replied, quote, "Probably what you're describing," end quote. Yanowitz will appear in the court on January 8th for preliminary hearing. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, how many times have I told this to you? Be careful around people that want to be near your children. All right? Bathrooms, not a safe place. They're not. Okay. I know I don't want to sound like some terrified person. Don't go out in the public. I'm not telling you that. I'm just telling you, be careful. Protect your children at all costs. There are Mr. Yanowitzes out there. And although he admitted it, he'll still be given the presumption of innocence in court. But the reality of it is he was filming some 11-year-old in the bathroom, for goodness sakes. How do you fix that? How do you fix that? Some people say you can't. Maybe some people think you can. I don't know. Be careful. Protect your children at any cost. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for you today. I'm off to court. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time. And remember, the Constitution matters.